Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video. And everyone's, well, it used to be bi-monthly, and now it's just monthly ranking event. Jubilee Catalyst is here, the 23rd iteration, and it has introduced, the EX units, so they will be very prevalent throughout this entire video. So if you do not have them, feels bad. However, today's focus is on the normal battles, so let's go ahead and take a look. Currently, I am savoring my rank 1 in all 3 slots, but again, this is very early in Jubilee. It's the first full day, and I do not expect to stay number 1 across the board, or even overall, for another, 7 days or something like that. So, the teams I have work. And they will definitely hold me up here, and I am done grinding, because there's no real point in me continuing, because they don't even show the global leaderboards anymore in the live stream, so there's actually no fucking point. But, let's get the disclaimers out of the way. So, first, your results may vary, because my box is different than yours, and you have units that, or you don't have units that I have, I have dupes and units that you don't have. These team comps may look a little bit different based on what you can use, so, make do with what you got. Disclaimer number 2 is that these, over here, that way, down here somewhere, are the protection gauge characters, some of which we don't actually use this fight, but these are the big 3, Gazel, Earth Milim, and Dark Milim, and then, Light Rimuru also makes an appearance here and there, so that's how I start out the fight with so much protection gauge. And then disclaimer number 3 is do not forget to go into your town and enhance your magic output buildings for whatever element you want to be using for max damage. That's kind of important because I realized I didn't have it on my light team and then went back and did it, and I got like 300 extra points of attack, so it can help. But with that out of the way, let's move on to Normal Battle 1. Alright, Normal Battle 1 is a light-focused team, so this is the first team that I have built, and it's fairly standard. Shizu, Shion, Rimuru, Hero, Isis for the green buff, and then the backline unit, if you don't have EX Rimuru, you can certainly bring another unit that can help Shion out, whether it be, Light 3.0 Milim for the attack buff and like the light resistance down. Shion technically already gives herself an attack buff, so that's a little bit redundant, but it can work. The other good option would be 1.0 Light Leon, because, no one is giving a light buff here. We're not bringing Shinsha. And this team does have the capacity and points to run both that buff and the hero buff, and then everything else. So, EX Rimuru, not necessary. If you want, good damage and good score, he's going to be very, linchpinny to you, but this can work. So let's go ahead and bring up the video. So we're starting out. This is a special conversion hand with Soka in mind, but obviously we don't have Soka. And also, I don't want to kill this bat turn 1. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring in Isis, and we're going to leave it as these 3 units, and just send the 4 blues. Just send them, because that gets us protection gauge for turn 2, which is necessary. So now he's still alive, we take a hit, yes. Now, though, we can use both the rewind and the green buff, and use Shizu, so that gives us a full hand of greens. They're all buffed. Ideally, you have 2 to 3 Shion orbs, and that will give you the ult. Now that we've used the rewind, we're going to swap the hero out for Rimuru, because we want to use his buff next turn on the rewind, and then hold Shion in the back, which is also why I didn't want to kill this bat turn 1. So there it is, it's dead. We have another Shizu. We are at 100 points now, which means that we can very easily use Rimuru's big-time 80-point buff. Now, it does mean that you will not partake in the 20% resistance down that he also gives, but you still get 65% physical attack, which no one else is giving Shion here. So we use the Shion Orb Change just to get another skill in for, to stack hers and Shizu. We've used the big buffs. Now we're going to swap her out and hold her in the back for the actual nuke turn. We use Shizu again, gives us another full hand of greens. We're going to send the Rimuru first, that way we get type advantage damage, because we don't need all the Rimuru orbs. But again, we're at 100 points. We're at Shizu, so next turn, we're good to go. We have plenty of points now to use the Pierce Resistance down from Rimuru, the crit buff from the hero, and Shion's attack / Pierce power buff. And that leaves us like, what, 5 points, I think, left over? So it's tight, but this team is very, very easy to run, as long as you have everybody, right? So here we go, Shion comes in. We'll put the hero in for Rimuru since he serves no other purpose now. We can't use his orb change because we just don't have that many points. And now we can use the crit, we can use the resistance down, and we can use the attack buff. We're going to send, I think, 1, maybe 2 orbs, like a Rimuru and hero card here, because if we send Shion, she does like 24k and she kills it in 1 hit. So we can't send a Shion orb, not that we have any. Also can't send 2 Rimurus, so 1, 2, and he's very, very close. And then our Shion does 223,000 of damage right there, which gives us a total score of 47,398. So that is a very easy, very simple team, right? If you have the pieces, it's very consistent. The only way that it messes up is if you don't get like 2 or 3 Shion orbs on turn 2. That's literally the only way. Otherwise, it's perfect. Or you get like 5 blues or something, and you can't do anything about that. But that is the first team we use. That got my previous high score, but now I have a new team that we're running that got me my new high score, which I think has just been dethroned. So let's check that out. Alright, this is the newest team that I have run that got me my current high score, which is now number 2. I just found out. But we are running a little bit different teams. We've got Towa as our protector now for the full orange hand and the 40 points. Shizan is still our primary DPS. We have Soka to take care of our turn 1 orb change. The hero is here. Leon is in the back now for his light buff. And then Raphael is here for his debuff and pierce, which obviously since we're not running Shizu, we need someone to give Shion pierce. And so he's going to fulfill that role. I do not suggest bringing Albus because you can't really run an 80 skill point unit. It's just unfortunate. Because you could give Pierce and you can give him the 50% resistance down, which would be real nice on this Pierce-focused team, but it's a little expensive. So that's it. We also have swapped up a little bit, so now, because we're running a full hand of blues turn 1, we don't really need the full protection trio. So I've got Space Millum here for extra points turn 1. Rimuru's here to get us, gauge for the first 3 turns. It's smaller, but it still works. And then I have Guy and Rimuru here, and then the hero. So ideally, you have 4 units giving you protection gauge on turn 3, which will make this team run. So let's go ahead and bring that video up. So here we are, we're already in the fight. Turn 1, you use the orb change with Soka, and then swap her out for Leon. Wow, it's getting dark outside, so I'm going to turn the light on. Alright, so now we have a full hand of blues. This gets us plenty of protection gauge. It will die, so we don't want to keep this one alive for this run. We want to kill it. So now, we kind of need a few Shion orbs. Like, we need like 2 Shion orbs minimum to make this hand works. And they have to be, can't be 5 greens or something, or even 4 greens, because you can't use Towa then. So we're going to use the light buff from Leon now, use Towa, get the 40 points, and then use the rewind here. And then we'll go ahead and kill this bat. And then we'll go ahead and send all the Shion orbs, just to make sure we get the light damage first off, and not, waste anything by sending the hero first, because she doesn't have type advantage, doesn't have weakness score. So turn 2.5, the 3rd bat comes in, and then we swap Shion out because it's the rewind turn, and we can still hold on to that light buff now. Now, the important part is that we have so much protection gauge on turn 3, you're going to want to use, alongside that defense down skill from Soka, because it lasts for 2 turns, use that first, and now I'm going to send these hero orbs, and we're going to pray that, between the 4 units that give us protection gauge on turn 3, that will get us to a double protector right here, which thankfully it does, because we have, 6, 12, 18, like 22 points of protection gauge coming in on turn 3, so now we have double protector. Now we have enough points to run both, big time buffs from Raphael and the hero, while still having room for Shion's, own buff skill. So Go ahead and do that. We used Leon's Orb Change just to get one more skill to get the stack in, which technically we have enough to use also Shion's Orb Change, so that's just more stacks of damage for Shion, because it's Pierce Power every time you use a skill for the first 3 turns. So there's the hero buff right here, and then we'll use Towa again. We've already applied the Pierce and the ult resistance down, so now we have 45 points, which leaves us enough to use the Orb Change, and then one more, the final buff from Shion. So now she's fully wanked out, alright? And we can't send anything else because we're going to kill it. And we do 245,000 damage right there. Better than what we got the last run. And that puts us at 48,157 points. So, pretty good. The first team is very consistent. This team, I mean, you kind of need the elements, right? You need Towa, she's relatively new. Raphael's relatively new, and a meta that a lot of people didn't summon on, so they may or may not have her, him, whoever. Sokka's free to play. Leon is, he's in the general pool. The hero, if you don't have the hero, you're kind of hurting for a lot of content. But this is a more try-hardy team that still doesn't require too much effort, but it does require maybe a more complicated set of units. So that's the teams for Normal 1. Let's move on to Normal 2 now. Alright, Normal 2 is a bit of a doozy, because it is RNG and it is very specific. So this is the team that I have my highest score with. Towa, the hero, Light Milim, Geld, Wind Geld making a comeback, EX Rimuru, and then Water Shuna. So, the starting hand of this fight is something that we have not seen before. It is 3 blue, and 3 orange. And it also is a 3 and 3 for whatever unit is in the first and second slot. So, if you're going to run this team, the first 3 units, this is how you must have it set up. Because we're using Geld to give away the blue orbs to the person with the highest attack, who we can see is Rimuru, even though this team isn't actually geared right now. He has the highest attack. So, I'm going to swap him in for Milim, because Milim will have the 3 oranges, and then the hero will have the 3 blues. But then using Geld, I can just give away the 3 blues from the hero to Rimuru, which gives us a 6th hand of him, and also gets us like 1.5 meters of his ult gauge, which is very important, because we're going for his EX ult. And then Milim, has her buff. We have Shuna's buff. We have Rimuru's big-time buff. We do not have the capacity to use the hero buff, unfortunately. There's not enough points on this team. So, we're going to have to make do. But, based on my science tests throughout this entire game's lifetime, the alt buff is better than the hero buff. Especially if you're using a water unit, because you can then benefit from the water resistance down that Shuna also gives. So, let's go ahead and fire this video up. So again, we have the very specific starting hand. You see the 3 hero and the 3 Milim right here. 3 blue, 3 orange. So now, turn 1, in order to give away the 3 blues, we have to bring Rimuru in for Milim. That way he has the 3, he has the highest attack, and now we'll use Geld's giveaway to turn those heroes into Rimuru's, which also get a damage buff, which is nice. Not really important, but it's nice. But we can kill this first soldier here, and it also gives us a 1.5 gauge of ult, which we're going for EX ult. And also, one thing to note on this fight is that they have 100% physical resistance, and Rimuru is obviously physical, and Rimuru says, go fuck yourselves with his EX ult, because it don't matter, okay? It just doesn't matter. So here, we're going to use a rewind. We have 2 Rimuru orbs. That is very important. You need 2 Rimuru orbs with a 5-hand of orange to get his EX ult this turn. If you don't have 2 Rimuru, you're fucked. And that's just the way it is. It's a reset. If you have like 4 greens and something you can't orb change, you're fucked. Reset. So here we've used Towa. We've swapped the hero out for Milim. We're going to use Towa, and now we've used the attack buff as well for Milim, so we can hold it when we send Rimuru away next turn. We're going to spread the damage out, get people, starting to get them low. He is good where he is now. The rewind kicks in. Rimuru has his EX ult now, technically, and the attack buffs. Now, he goes in the back. He goes bye-bye. And now we have Shuna. And we got very lucky here. We have 5 oranges, which gives us just enough points and gauge, protection gauge, because we have Light Rimuru attached to Shuna. So he'll give us protection gauge on turn 3. This is enough to get us what we need, because we need almost max. We need like 95 points minimum, plus Towa, for this to work. So we're going to, again, spread the damage out, make sure we're getting people as low as possible. So now on turn 3, after we get hit a little bit, it'd be nice if they always hit Shuna, that way we take the least amount of damage, but they didn't feel like playing around. So now we have 100 points, we have Towa, we have Rimuru's EX ult in the back, and we are ready to cook. So we're going to bring him in for Milim, since she serves no other purpose now. We're not ulting with her. Now we're going to use his gigantic fizz buff and debuff on the enemies. We'll use Towa, get 40 points, and that gives us just enough, 60 points, just enough to use the ult up and the water resistance down on the lowest enemy. And now we come to the decision of, do we send more orbs? We absolutely cannot send a Rimuru orb. So now it's, what can we do here? I'm checking health on people, so I'm going to send 1 Geld and then 2 Shuna, because Shuna is not really buffed right now. She doesn't have attack buff, she's not physical, so she didn't even get that attack buff anyways. So we can safely send 2 orbs against the right guy. But then we're going to send 1 Geld in the middle, 2 Shuna, the ult, and then the follow-up rest of them, so the orbs don't get that extra damage buff. So 1, 2, 3, everyone's in the red, and we do 148k against the guy with the resistance down. Which, is hilarious again, because these guys still have 80% physical resistance. So if they didn't have that, we would have done like 200k or something like that, or more. So that is the final score that I at, 49.146. That is currently my highest score, and I still think the highest score on Normal 2 as of recording this. So that is a team you can run, again, if you have all the components. If you don't have all the components, things get a little bit more interesting. So let's go ahead and check that out. Alright, so if you don't have Towa, if you don't have EX Rimuru, and you have, the Water 2.0 team plus the hero, you can run this team. And it's, not nearly as effective because you're not doing 140k for everybody, you're just nuking with Hinata, in at least my run that I'm about to show you. But, this is assuming you don't have some of the linchpins of Jubilee. So we've got Milim, we've got Shuna, Water Rimuru, the hero, Hinata is going to be our nuker, and then we have Xion on the back. So ideally, this one, you're not killing turn 3. You're going to turn 4, because you need it to build up points. And again, you're not nuking with anybody but Hinata. So you're going to kill 2 of the people and leave 1 alive, and then nuke him with single target damage, and you will get a score. It's not the best score, but it is a score. Let's go ahead and bring it up here. This team is going to run, as you would normally do with anything else. So Rimuru here, because he can steal these orbs, again, he's set in the middle slot, so he can turn all those into blues, and then we'll bring in Hinata, and we'll bring in Xion, because Xion gives us protection gauge on turn 2, and we'll take away Rimuru. So we'll go ahead and send these 6. Obviously, blues don't give you a lot of anything when they're not buffed, except for, protection gauge, which is cool. We kill him. We're, up to 1 3/4 of a Milim gauge. Now we're a little bit higher because of Xion's trait. And now we play around a little bit. So we're going to rewind here, and then we're going to send these oranges after using the Milim buff, because we can't do anything with 3 oranges. We can do something with 2 oranges, but not 3. Or no, we send the hero orbs. Never mind. I should have watched this. We send the hero orbs. That gets us another Milim. Gives us a few points. And then on this turn, things don't go exactly as planned. Which maybe if things had gone more my way, maybe I could have nuked on turn 3 if we gotten a lot of Hinata orbs, maybe. But it is what it is. So turn 2, we're going to take some hits here. We're not really close to doing anything. We need 180 skill points, because we want to use all 3 of the buffs from Xion and Shuna, and then Hinata's own personal buff, which costs at total 180. So here, we can go ahead and use this orb change. This will get us Hinata's ult, and it will give us maximum points. So we're going to just kill the very right guy, and then we're going to kill the middle guy, and then leave the other guy alive with low HP. And he is, yeah, he's right there. But now I can't really send anything else on him. So we got another stack of Millums. So technically this will be 3 Millum stacks now. And then, so that's 30% water attack, plus the 50 that you get from Shion, plus guaranteed crits, plus 10% magic damage, plus the alt buff, plus the water resistance down, plus the attack buff, plus the crit damage. I mean, there's a lot of buffs going on. It's just that, you know, we're only using it on one unit. So here's that. Let's use that. We're at 0 points, literally everything, and then we just nuke. And then we do, how much? 200 something? 266k, which, you know, is better than what Rimuru is doing against one target, but he was doing it to 3 people. So there's my score right there. 43.5, you know, it's about 3k or 6k less than my, you know, tippity top team, but this is not an ideal setup for this stage. So if it's what you got, it's what you got. And it can get you into the 40s if your Hinata is decently duped out. But that is the alternate team that I have for you for Normal 2. So now let's move on to the fun one, Normal Battle 3. Alright, Normal Battle 3 is a funny one, because they want you to use the Dark team, which, you know, yes, technically we do have a good stacking Dark team. However, this enemy is not as tanky as you would like it to be. So what I have done is I have taken off all of the weapons on all of my units, except for Millum. That way we can do the least amount of damage possible up until the nuke turn, which is going to be turn 6 for this team. We have Diablo, because he's the orb changer for oranges. We have Isis, because she's the blue orb changer, and the stage is built for that. Millum is, you know, the special converter. Rimuru and Shinsha are the support buffs. So this team is going to run, you know, as a normal Dark 2.0 team. There's very little variation to it. But let's go ahead and start it up. It's, you know, since we brought Diablo, we're not really hurting that much for orb changing, because, you know, if we didn't bring him and we're just trying to run another support unit like Raphael or something, if you got more than, you know, two or more orange orbs, your run's kind of fucked for that hand. So that's why we brought him. You could, you know, if you don't have Diablo, you could bring the free-to-play Sufia, the free-to-play Earth Aaron. So, I mean, they can work just fine. He's literally only here for orb changing. And because he's dark, he's also buffing up Millum's EX board. So turn 1, we got the full hand of greens. Technically, if you wanted, you could take off one of the protection trio and swap in someone to give you points, or maybe 2 units to give points. That way you could have a 40 starting hand and use both the green buff and the green orb change turn 1, but we didn't really do that here. So turn 2, funny. So that's why we brought Diablo. So use him, use Millum's orb change, that gives us a 6 hand. We should be able to use the green buff as well. I think I already did, yeah. I already did use that, so we're running good here. We get a Diablo ult, doesn't matter. His only purpose is to orb change. But we are making sure to send Millum first and not last, because we don't want to kill this thing early. So we want to send our highest damaging unit first, that way they don't get that extra 200% orb damage bonus. So here, we're going to use the orb change again, and then we can swap him away from someone else, and then we can use Millum's orb change, and, you know, everything is just hunky-dory. We'll use a stack of Shinsha's debuff and skill point boost, and then we have yet again another 6 hand of greens. And, you know, technically we could use Veldora here, which we do, because we need to build up the points to use all of the buffs. So, which is, I believe it's 190 points. So, I mean, we are capped out here. It's just that we don't have Veldora yet. So, kind of unfortunate. We have to go at least one more turn. But you can see he is dying, because, you know, Veldora is giving us that magic damage increase, which if your people had gear, they would be killing much faster. And also, we don't have a Millum ult either, because the game refuses to give us an orb. So, thankfully, we kind of do here. So, it's kind of wonky, but it is what it is. We have the units to be able to handle this, though, technically. So, we'll use the blue change. We'll bring Diablo in for Isis, because she only has that one orb, so it's only going to change that one. We can use his orb change, which technically is going to cost extra, but I don't feel like using. We can't use Veldora actually right now. And then we'll swap him away, and now we can use Millum and the green buff again, and the crit debuff. on the enemy, so that gives us a full hand of greens, and this also gives us Milim's ult, of which we send Milim first. So now we're on turn 5. Do we nuke here? I actually don't remember. We might nuke, or I might actually wait till his defense is gone. The only thing with that nuking early is that you're going to take one less hit from him, so I guess, okay, we are nuking early. So there's the dark buff, the ult buff, and the attack buff from Milim. I mean, we can do everything, right? Or do we? Oh, we send one more. All right, so we're waiting for his defense to go away, apparently, which is good because we couldn't send anything more than that one orb. But now we're ready. His defense is gone. We can do maximum damage. So we're going to use all 3 of the big buffs. That'll clear us out of points. We can use Veldora then, who is maxed at 70% now, and then we can get that buff. And now we will send away with Milim while he's at his probably lowest HP I'm ever going to see him at. For me, at least. And Milim does 354,000 damage. Now, that's very good. And, you know, if you wanted to play with RNG, you could not bring Diablo and you can bring Light Raphael or somebody else to enhance your damage and, you know, be my guest, and you can get a higher score than this. Or you can use the new Fount of Wisdom team, because that does oodles more damage. Oodles of boodles, more damage. Alright, oodles of damage, right? We have the new Fount of Wisdom team minus Gopta, because Gopta is giving us Pierce, Power, and Wind buff, but we're not nuking with Wind Hinata, we're nuking with Dark Albus. So we are trying to push her ult. Again, we have removed the attack gear from this team to make him, you know, weaker. His team is very strong still, but also we're not getting that extra 60% damage buff. But Albus does have an EX ult, and we have quite a few buffers that we can put on this team to make her hit very, very hard. So let's go ahead and start it up. This team currently is my highest scoring team, and still the highest scoring team, again, as of recording this video. So it's very, very, you know, very simple. You know, you're stacking with the Dark team, you're stacking with the Fount of Wisdom team, all you do is stack. It's just that you don't have an orb changer for turn 1, so you're going to send 4 blues here, or sorry, 4 greens. My bad. 4 greens. That will not get you protection gauge, you know, whatever you do. However, it does give you 50 points, which is then enough that you can pray that next turn you get a nice spread for orbs, so you get like a 2-2-2 kind of orange, blue, green, which is what we got here. So at least we start with 2 blues because we didn't touch those. So it does give us Diablo because of the traits, and now we can go ahead and use both the orb changes, either from, you know, Trainee and Hinata, or we could use Albus and Rimuru. It really doesn't matter, as long as you get 4 blues. And now, remember, we are going to send Albus first because she does the most damage, so we don't want to kill this thing inadvertently. And then we're off to the races. So now we have like a stack and change of Diablo. Now we have points, ideally. We have like 70 or something. No, we have 110, even better. So now Diablo, we're going to start buffing up our point gain. We're going to start debuffing his ult resistance. And now we can go ahead and start pushing the ult for Albus using Trainee. That's why she's here, along with the orb changing. And now we'll go ahead and bring in Rimuru, because we can use both Albus's orb change and Rimuru's orb change for, again, another 6-handed blues. And we're looking pretty good. Now, the hero is here because the rewind does also buff protection gauge and can give you 1 additional turn, technically, to, you know, at least get some more stacks in, which is what we're going to do here. We're going to rewind, and then we're going to bring Rimuru in for her and use his orb change, giving us a full hand of blue again. And now we're looking pretty good. Unfortunately, no Albus orbs, so we swapped her out. Also on turn 3, at the end of turn 3, he does lower your pierce rate by 30% or something like that. So you want to make sure that your, you know, Albus or whatever DPS you have is either not on the run for turn 3 going into turn 4, or if they have to be, then you're going to have to leave them in the entire time and wait until turn 6 when the debuff drops off. So now we're on turn 3. we can go ahead and use, this is the rewind turn, we've got another stack of Diablo, and then we're going to send these 5 trainees because we can't bring in Albus because we've already swapped her away. We're going to send this just to get points. We're almost capped out again. She does not do a lot of damage, which is good because we don't want that. And now we have a trainee alt technically, which is cool, whoopsie do. But I need an Albus alt. I need an Albus EX alt, which means we're going to need a few orbs for her. A few. So what we could do here is I could bring her in for Hinata, and then I could get people out of here. We're going to push the alt again, give her alt gauge, and now technically I could orb change here into a full blue with an alt, or I could just run it. But I think yeah, I think we just run it because the alt, honestly, it doesn't do that much damage. She's not buffed up, she's, you know, type neutral technically, she doesn't have any gear on, so we can get away with her alt. Yeah, like 5,000 damage. It does a chunk, but not a big chunk. So we gotta clear our hand of that. Now we have to pray that we can start getting some Hinata orbs, or not Hinata, but Albus orbs, which thankfully we do. Ish, right? Ish. We need 240 points minimum to use all 3 of the big time buffs, but we're not gonna get that because I can't use the orb changes here. We have too many oranges, and you know the point cost is going to be too great. We need to leave her in to get the EX alt. It's just a little expensive here. So we're going to forego one of the buffs, the Hinata buff, because you know that is 60% attack and also 40% alt damage to Hinata. And I did science that before recording this, and technically the hero buff by itself is a better buff than just straight up 60% attack. So I made the right decision here. So we have one more stack of Diablo, he loses all of his defense, and now we have 236 points, so we're 4 shy. But we do have enough to use the hero, Rimuru, and Albus buffs to make us do still lots of damage. So bye-bye Hinata, you're no longer useful here. The only way, like, you could, ideally, if you have really, really good RNG, you could get away with using the Hinata buff early if you somehow get Albus's EX alt really quickly. 505,000 damage. Dark Millennium did, like, what, 320, something like that? Oodles more damage right there. And that gives us a bigger score of 68.8. But like I was saying, if you get lucky, if you get the RNG, and you get Albus's EX alt a few turns early, you could then, you know, use Hinata's attack buff and save it, and then attempt to build back up to the 200 and something points that you need, and then you can technically have everything, because you're not actually losing anything from using the attack buff early, because the alt buff doesn't affect her. So, you could do that, and if you want to RNG that, be my guest. But, that is the the Fount of Wisdom team with Albus pushing her EX alt, 505,000. Try and beat my score, I guess. And yeah, I mean, if you don't have the Fount of Wisdom team, and you don't have the Dark 2.0 team, or maybe you have Diablo, and a whole bunch of support units that can orb change to blues for whatever, you know, whatever you have, you could, like, bring, like, OG Dark Millennium, single target damage dealer, Dark, and you could just attempt to stack and buff her up. But, I mean, that's if you're really, really out of options. So, let me know if this video helped you guys out. Let me know what your scores are right now, and if you actually did end up beating any of my scores. But that's it from me, guys. Take it easy, and I'll see you later.